one of the best things about reading through the Bible, even the Old Testament, I'd sometimes say especially the Old Testament, is how much you can learn about the world, about life, about marriage, from stories that in their context weren't even necessarily about marriage.
Sure.
And that's what we're going to do today. Look at a little Old Testament story of someone devaluing their future, and we're going to talk about how that applies to your marriage and our marriage today.
Let's get into that.
Before we jump into today's show, I wanted to ask you to check out our website, brand new website, marriagebydesignpodcast.com. That's marriagebydesignpodcast.com. All of our episodes are available there on that website. Love to have you pop over there, follow us there, and check it out.
If you have a topic that you're wanting more information on or you have questions about, you can search on our website by topic, which is a really great feature.
That's right. And more than anything, guys, please share this with someone that would find it meaningful for them. Without any more delay, let's get to the show. Hey, everybody. I'm Nathan Warnock.
I'm Andrea Warnock, and you've joined us for the Marriage by Design podcast, a time where we get to talk to you about God's design for marriage, what the Bible has to say about that, and how we live that out practically. So today we're talking about not trading our blessings in marriage for a bowl of soup, right? That was kind of the tagline of the episode.
Tell me more.
So we're looking at a story in Genesis 25 of these twins, Jacob and Esau. And their story starts before these verses, but in this part of the story, they're men who they're living with their parents, they've grown up, but Esau was the firstborn, and as the firstborn back in Old Testament times, there were some blessings that came with being the firstborn. And one of them was a birthright, which meant that they were given a double portion of their inheritance. So he had his birthright, and that just was because he was the firstborn. So he had been out hunting all day long, and he came home and was famished, starving. And so in Genesis 25:29, it says, so his brother's name was Jacob. Once when Jacob was cooking stew, Esau came in from the field, and he was exhausted. And Esau said to Jacob, "Let me eat some of that red stew, for I am exhausted." Jacob said, "Sell me your birthright now." Esau said, "I am about to die. Of what use is a birthright to me?" Jacob said, "Swear to me now." So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and he ate and drank and rose and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Now, there's a lot in these few verses that we can take and apply to our marriage. Even though, like Nathan said in the opening, this isn't a passage about marriage, but there's a lot that we can take from this and apply.
So one thing we believe about the Bible to be the case is that there is a singular context for every passage in the Bible, meaning it's important when we read the Bible for us to consider who was the author, what was the situation, what was trying to be conveyed. There is one context. These are actual books written by real people at a real time in history, inspired by the Holy Spirit,
right? But
written by real people for a real purpose. The other side of that is because they were inspired by the Holy Spirit, there are spiritual truths in all passages of Scripture that we can take away. And those spiritual truths aren't always only related to the context of that Scripture. That's really important here. That last verse that you read is really the one we want to think about and unpack a little bit, right?
Esau despised his birthright.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. So in thinking about how this relates to the Lord and to marriage. You know, if we're looking at, first of all, Esau was out hunting and he came home and he was starving. And let me tell you, we've talked about this so many times. Our emotions and our feelings lie to us. They are liars. He was not going to die of starvation in that moment. If he had been out and hunting and able to come back, I mean, it takes a long time to starve, right?
If you have kids or have ever been around kids or have ever been a kid, you know exactly what happened here, right? I mean, we've got a couple of kids that 8 minutes after they get up from the table,
I'm so hungry.
Right. They want a snack. You say no, but I'm starving. Yeah. No, you're not. You want what you want in the moment. And that's where Esau was. He came back in. He smelled the stew. It made him
and I'm sure
feel
he was very hungry. Yes, right.
And so he was just absolutely had to have it, no matter the cost.
Right. And he was willing to give up something that the Lord had given him. You know, his father had given him the birthright, right? And he was willing to give that up, a blessing because of just his state in life, for a bowl of soup. And the Lord has given us the blessing of marriage, which isn't something that we just have a right to. We enter into that, right? Yep. But we've entered into that, and there's a blessing that comes with that the Lord wants to give us, because as we choose marriage, as we choose to walk in God's ways in our marriage, we learn so much more about the Lord,
right?
Because of that, and that alone is an enormous blessing. And when we make those hard decisions, so he was willing to give up his birthright for a bowl of soup because he felt so dang hungry. And then, really, what it says at the end, he despised his birthright at that very last.
Yeah. So what happened at the end of the day? The thing that he wanted right now, in his mind, was more valuable than something of actual value down the road.
Right.
That's the big idea.
And something that his father meant as a blessing.
Right.
You know, it wasn't just something, that he, it was something that would hurt his father's heart, because his father meant that to be a blessing, not something that you sell in the moment. So how does that relate to marriage? There are so many times where we want to sacrifice the long-term blessing of investing in our marriage, of rejecting sin, of, we want to trade the short-term wants for the long-term investment and the long-term blessing of our marriage. And I'm not even talking about, I see this guy over here that I'm more interested in right now than my husband. And I'm not even talking about affair type things.
Yeah.
That's actually what
I would say. That's actually the result of doing this, in my opinion. Like, I think there's a lot of decisions that get made, small compromises that get made because we value what we want right now. Mm-hmm. Like that, having those couple words with the cute new girl at work or the cute new guy at work is something that we want right now.
Yeah.
That actually is a compromise that leads to losing something of true value later.
Right. Right.
But your point, your point is well taken, and that's something I don't think we spend enough time really thinking about. Like, what are we actually valuing? Like, the way that you invest in your marriage or don't, the way that you have structured your priorities in your life or not, those are those based on what you're feeling right now, or are those based on what you are trying to build towards, or what you know God has for you 20, 30 years from now?
Yeah, and what are some of those things? Just choosing the date nights, even if it's not dates outside of your house, but choosing. Nathan and I have a lot of things that are vying for our time, and I'm not talking about just our kids, but just there's a lot of things that are trying to constantly pull us apart and steal our time from each other. And if we choose to do that, if we're constantly choosing like, oh, we'll have, maybe a year from now we'll have more time for date nights, or right now we're just really busy, we don't have time to really invest in each other, we don't have time to talk about the hard things, we don't have time to, gosh, this is a problem between the two of us, but we'll sweep it under the rug, we don't have time to deal with that. If we choose those things, we're trading our long-term blessing, because we're not going to have the marriage in a year, 5, 10 years, whatever, that the Lord desires for us to have, because we didn't invest the time in our friendship, in the things that matter, in talking about our dreams and how we disagree and coming to an agreement, or how do we agree on some of these things, and how do we feel like the Lord is really, blooming things in our heart together. And if we don't spend the time doing those things, we're not going to be at the place that the Lord desires for us down the road in the long term,
Yeah. For me, there's really like 3 categories that this falls into in a lot of marriages. And that's in the area of sacrifice, of, we'll call it community because I want to separate it from the third one, but like, being a couple, maybe that's the better way. Like sacrifice, couple, and intimacy. Like those, in my opinion, most of the couples we've talked to where we go, man, they really let their priorities get out of whack. They really devalued their marriage at some point. And of course, the couples we meet with that are a lot of times are in a bad way, it was some time ago that they made this switch. And it almost always falls into one of those 3 categories. The first one being they just simply devalued what it means to sacrifice for their spouse. And I would say this is probably the primary one. Because what I want right now is the thing I have a right to. Like, I have a right to my spouse doing this. I have a right to having regular nights out with my buddies. I have a right to spending tons of time with my mom or my dad or my siblings. I have a right to play video games. I have a right to doom scroll on my phone. I have a right to do these things. And we're so focused on our rights that we miss it, that the entire purpose of marriage is about sacrifice. Why do we sacrifice? Because we're building something for the future. God has a good gift in marriage, but it's a gift that must be pursued. And that pursuit is built on sacrifice.
Yep.
So as you think about your life, how much time do you spend thinking about the thing you're entitled to versus the thing you can give to your spouse? Hint, the thing that makes you most uncomfortable to give your spouse, that's the thing you should focus the most on, because that's probably the area that the Lord wants you to grow in the most. Why? Because you don't want to do it. And in marriage, sacrifice is everything. Learning, you don't have to understand. You don't have to understand why your spouse really wants a clean house, why it's critical to them that every night before you go to bed that the whole house is. You don't need to understand that. Now, maybe they need to spend some time understanding why they need that, but that's not your business. Your job is to sacrifice on their behalf. That's the job. So sacrifice is number 1. 2 is being a couple. This is one where the grind of life, and Andrea was just describing it, the grind of life can get us in a bad way.
Oh, man.
Because there is always something that it's easy in our mind to think is more important. There's always the smell of a bowl of soup on the wind in life. There's always church activities to be involved in. Good thing? Sure. Can they pull you apart as a couple? Yeah. Because you're not focused on the thing you're building. You're focused on something you want to be involved in right now. I want to be seen in my church as a leader. Great. What's the cost? I want my kids to be able to be in excellent sports. Great. What's the cost? Because
good things are not necessarily the right things.
Yeah, I'm talking about good things here. Not doing date nights because we want to spend more time with the kids. Is that a good thing? It's a good thing to want to spend time with your kids. There's a cost. The problem is Esau despised his birthright. Another way of saying that is he did not count the cost of that bowl of soup. Because a birthright 50 years from right then was not valuable to him. Are you willing to look at your spouse and say, hey, a strong marriage 30 years from now, not really that valuable to me. I'd rather work. Or I'd rather spend time with the kids. Like, we need to be serious about building strong marriages as a couple. Because I don't want to get to the other side and have God go, Nathan despised his marital rights that I gave him. And I'm saying that meaning the right to a God-honoring marriage, which is the right. That's the only right we get in marriage, is to do things according to God's design and receive God's marriage right within, over time. And then the third one is in intimacy. This is one that we frankly just don't value it in marriage. I don't really know how to say it any other way. I don't think people value intimate marriages. And I'm saying if you think you're close with your spouse, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about being close with your spouse. I'm talking about being one with your spouse. Caring at the most intimate level in what they care about. Caring about ministering to them, even the parts of them that make you uncomfortable. Like, that's what it means to be intimate with another human being. It means to care as if it's yourself for the things of your spouse, to take joy in the things that they take joy in, to cry in the things that they cry in, to desire to meet their physical needs, their emotional needs, their sexual needs. And I don't mean just so you can get it over with, but genuinely desiring that they might be ministered to and fulfilled in those areas. Boy, we devalue that, I feel like, because it's hard, it's awkward, it's uncomfortable. Andrea has far different things that she prioritizes than I do. I don't always understand them. And because I don't understand them, it's easy for me to go, well, because I don't understand them, they must be dumb or they must not be that valuable. But they are. And for us to despise intimacy with our spouse because it makes us uncomfortable is really, really pathetic when you think about it in those terms. I mean, when I hear and read this story of Esau and Jacob, I honestly look at Esau and I'm like, dude, you're pathetic. Like, you weren't starving. You just smelled something good and you sold something really valuable for a few bites of food. And here's the irony. Guess who that soup was probably for anyway? Probably Esau. So if he had just waited until the proper time, he'd have probably gotten it anyway. Like, man, just that alone, when we think about his intimacy, we think, man, if I manipulate my spouse, if I don't give them what they want in the hopes that they realize that it's important to give me what I want, we do that because we think, okay, well, because this part of my spouse makes me uncomfortable, I'm not going to do that because then I'll be happy. Of course, the irony being, if we would learn to pursue our spouse in intimacy and discomfort and sacrifice and pursue being a couple with them, guess what we would end up being? Happy. Because we're doing things according to God's design. And there's blessing in that. Oh, yeah. Just like there was blessing in the birthright. The problem is Esau despised it.
Yeah, he didn't respect that. He didn't have the long term.
Right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. He saw right now, and that was what registered to him, not what was going to happen down the road.
Right.
And that's
Yeah, and I think that's so often our problem is that we're short-sighted.
Yep.
And we're not thinking in the long term.
Yep.
And so we maybe we're despising our marriage because in the short term it's hard and it causes sacrifice or it requires sacrifice, makes us uncomfortable. Sometimes we're starving in certain areas and we can't see the short term, the short term sacrifice for long term gain. And we have to be about the long term. And we have to be about the Lord's purpose.
Yeah, Proverbs says a man who finds a wife finds a treasure. But so often, even when we find an actual treasure in our lives, we don't think about the long-term value of something that we treasure. It's just, well, what's it worth to me right now?
Mm-hmm.
Like what's the value to me right now? And I'm afraid we're looking at our spouse with that kind of consumeristic mentality. Like, okay, I got this thing today. I got a long day at work. Andrea really better have the lentil soup better be on the table. When I get home, the house better be picked up because I'm going to be tired and I don't want to spend all night cleaning up the house. And then she better have plans on her mind for later that night because I've had a long day and I deserve that. And it's all like this right now sort of like not... Hey, maybe she had a long day, and I want her to feel affirmed in our marriage over the course of 30 years of marriage. Like, I want Andrea to get to the end of our marriage and feel like I wasn't a user of her. I was someone that desired her to feel cared for and loved. And I think this is the trap, is if I buy into the like, well, I can always start doing that tomorrow. Well, then I can do that tomorrow. And pretty soon I'm 70 and I have used this woman that God gave me. And we look back on our marriage probably the way that Esau looked back on that bowl of soup. I'll bet for the rest of his life, there was nothing more disgusting to him than red beef lentil soup. Because every time he had it, he was reminded of how poorly he treated the birthright to which he would have been granted. And I want to get to the end of my life and think, man, I really messed around in my marriage and didn't do a very good job of pursuing God's design for marriage. I want to be able to look back and say, I didn't do it perfectly. I've admitted on this channel a lot of the ways I screwed up our marriage early on. But after that, I want to be able to look back and say, Lord, I feel like I lived with a proper value for a marriage by God's design.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
All right, well, that's a good call. That was an Andrea topic. That was a good one. Thanks for prayerfully bringing that up. That's great. Okay. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Always appreciate you guys checking in, checking out the channel. If you haven't had an opportunity to go check out our new-ish website, it's marriagebydesignpodcast.com. You can stream all of our episodes, video on demand or audio only, anytime that you want. It's also easy to share an episode from that website, and all of our episodes are coded by topic. So if there's a topic that you're dealing with right now in your own marriage, or you have someone close to you that's dealing with something, a specific topic, you can go there and search by topic and find those episodes there that way.
Yeah.
All right. Until next time, then, remember, God is for your marriage.
Thanks so much for listening. We just wanted to say, if you have a comment, a question, something that you're struggling with or need prayer, please reach out to us. You can get a hold of us by emailing marriagebydesignpodcast@gmail.com, or of course, you can comment on any of our social media and we will get back to you. But if you have something private, feel free to email us. We're happy to personally respond to you.
That's right. And we do respond to every comment that we receive, either through our website, through YouTube, through our social medias, which leads me to feel free to pop over to our website, marriagebydesignpodcast.com. You can leave comments on any of our videos through that site. We would love to be able to connect with you, but please don't hesitate to reach out. Even if you just need prayer, you need someone to hear what you're going through, we're here for the Marriage by Design community, so feel free to reach out anytime. Until then, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you next time.